Gonna start here. I'd like to call the February 13th, 2025 Foster Town Council meeting to order. Please rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Announcements. I have a couple announcements here. Ray Holer passed away on February 9th. Gentleman that was the one of the Golden Cane recipients, being the oldest living member of Foster. He's also a veteran. World War II and Korea. We also have Patricia Bowe, which is the mother-in-law of our finance director, passed away on February 2nd. So I'd like a moment of silence for both. Thank you. Public comment is none there. All right, consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Oh, Steve, just in by the way of announcements, James Barentine,
Sorry.
he got held over
Yep.
at work, so
He
yeah,
be
he
excused.
requested to be excused.
Sorry. Approval of warrant number 12.
That was in the consent
Oh,
agenda.
you did. Oh, you did.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
We're good.
Okay, new business. We have a presentation by the Foster Preservation Society.
Good evening. My name is John Lewis. For those of you who don't know me, I am a member of the Board of Directors and here on behalf of the Foster Preservation Society to make a presentation to the council this evening. This is related to the Foster Townhouse and a grant that the society wrote for restoration of the townhouse back in 2021. Some of the work was done. Windows were repaired, thresholds and doors were repaired, and there was a chunk of money, about $5,000, to repair the clapboards on the south side of the townhouse, which were all deteriorating. When the old clapboards were pulled off, it was noted that there was significant damage underneath that. And structural things, sills and such, that needed to be repaired before they could go ahead with the clapboard repair. This left us in the unenviable position of perhaps having to return the money to the granting agency that they had given us to do that work. And we were loath to do that. So with the permission of the Board of Directors and the President, Ed Robinson, they asked me to write a request to the Champlain Foundation to have them reallocate the funding that they had earmarked for the clapboards to cover costs that the town council had incurred and already paid for. So I'm here to present on behalf of the Foster Preservation Society 2 checks to the town council. The first check is for $1,580.93 to cover repairs to a roof leak and plaster repairs to the ceiling subsequent to that leak. And the second one is for $3,358 to cover the cost of the sill survey that the town had to do to assess the damage under the townhouse. So a total of $4,900, nearly $5,000 that we are presenting to the town council to either offset the costs that you've already expended or restore the townhouse fund. Obviously, it's up to the council how you want to handle this money. So if I can approach, I'll hand this to.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And my opinion would be, and Kelly, it should go to the townhouse fund, wouldn't you think? If that's where it came from.
It came from Gordon's budget, Gordon paid for it.
Oh, it came from the DPW
So
budget.
if they have the funding and he's okay with it for this year, it could go to the townhouse fund for future expenses,
Okay.
which would benefit everyone overall, because either he pays for it in the future.
Yes,
or if
yes.
not, I can work that out with him if you guys are
Yeah,
Yeah.
are okay. with
okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing that, John.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We get a quick picture. Sure. Picture with Heidi.
that.
The best picture was at
That should be.
the ball thing.
Yeah.
I have the money.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I have the money?
Okay,
We got the treasurer here.
okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah. Thank you to the Boston
Very
Preservation
much
Society.
appreciated.
Obviously, you did not have to go back and request that. That's something that,
Mm.
you know, that's why we appreciate that.
The money was given to Foster, we wanted it to stay here.
Yep.
To have to return it to a granting agency, just
Right.
not a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the effort. Appreciate it. Okay. Next thing on the agenda, the RIPTA grant information presentation. Is Evan here?
There were a few invitations, but I can pass it out. Oh my God, right?
I'm not, no,
I'm not sure.
I'm off, but
She can't get in because she went in. Yes.
did you get one?
I have it on my.
Oh, you got it there. Oh, no. I'll keep it.
That's it.
Jeez. Got him?
Yep.
Okay. I looked at the whole thing on here. It would be nice to be able to see it again, but I just, no, I don't.
What, right? This whole, yeah, you got whole.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Dave Derrick. I'm with the consulting firm AECOM. My colleague Evan Mormon is joining me today. We've been working very closely with Chief Lindell, a great advocate for safety in the town. I'll say you're lucky to have her as far as her interest in promoting safety on the roadways and streets of Foster. Next, please. We are conducting this study under a federal grant from the USDOT. It's called the Safe Streets for All, and it is a program that came out of an earlier program called Vision Zero. The intent of that program was to reduce and eventually eliminate fatalities involving crashes on roadway systems. The SS4A program has a separate focus in addition to vehicle-to-vehicle crashes. There's a specific focus on what are called vulnerable roadway users, pedestrians and bicyclists in the community. Notably because when those injuries occur, the severity of the injuries are much greater on a percentage basis than just a vehicle-to-vehicle crash, whether that be a fender bender or something that's protected by airbags. We have been working with Chief Lindell and with our colleagues to just look at crash data and see where the evidence is pointing us in a way to specific locations in town. We're developing a plan, a safety action plan specific to Foster. We're working with RIPTA statewide. We have other colleagues that are working on different community plans. AECOM, as an example, is doing 8 separate plans. We're doing 32 total individual community plans under the program, in addition to a statewide plan. So we've been working with the chief, and we hope to work with you all as we move forward to develop a plan that's specific to Foster. So your plan will be what you want to see. It won't look like Gloucester's plan or Westerly's plan. It'll be specific to the conditions here and the desires of the community. Next, please. Before I will say the intent of the plan as well is to have that adopted by the council, which will make you eligible for further funding under the program for implementation funds. So this funding is for planning, and once the plan is approved, endorsed by the council, it will make you eligible for implementation funds, which can be used to design and construct some of the recommendations that will be in the plan. So on the screen here, this is why we're here. We looked at 5 years of crash data. During that time, there have been 4 fatalities in the town, 127 total injury-related crashes. So 20 to 25% of the crashes in town involve injuries. Fortunately, that last statistic, 0% of the crashes involve pedestrians and bicyclists, which is a good thing. That does not mean that it couldn't happen in the future. And part of the work that we're doing is to hear from you, hear from the public safety officials about locations that aren't showing up, but that could be near miss locations or dangerous locations in the town's mind, so that we don't wait for something to happen, so that we're looking at conditions and trying to improve them before there's an injury or a fatality. Next, please. This is just some data. It's the actual crash data for the 5-year period. I won't go through all the numbers. The criteria or codes are for fatalities, serious injuries, known injuries, and potential injuries. And then the final one is property damage only. So crashes that did not result in an injury. Next, please. And I think I'm going to stop after this one, but this is what our initial analysis has showed within the town where the injury accidents have occurred. We didn't map all 531 crashes because the program focuses on the injuries and trying to prevent injuries from occurring in the future. So you can see there's a fairly even distribution within the town. The map on the left is fatalities and serious injuries, incapacitating type injuries as reported in the reports. On the right, you can see fatalities and all crashes that resulted in injuries. And you can see some clusters there, certainly along Route 6, along 101 to the top, and in other locations throughout the town. So that's where we began to focus our attention on potential solutions, going out there, seeing the lay of the land, seeing if there are physical conditions that could be improved, or, signage, safety, eventually policy, if there's an appropriate policy recommendation. So this is where the data has targeted us and sent us. And Evan, I'll turn it over to you for the next.
Thanks, Dave. Next slide, please. So, everyone's always interested to hear how your town compares to the state. It's difficult to say that for sure because, when you're making per capita comparisons, you have to take into account how large a community is, and if you have, you know, 1 or 2 fatal crashes, right, that can really impact the numbers when you're a smaller community. That being said, per capita, the crash rates are higher than the state averages in motor vehicle fatal or serious injuries, crashes, motorcycle crashes, and all modes fatal and serious injury crashes. So, you know, when crashes are occurring, they're a little bit more likely to be serious, which makes sense because, you know, you're a little bit more rural roads, people driving faster. So unfortunately, when those crashes happen, it can lead to worse outcomes. Next slide, please. So the town, we're trying to be in conformance with the town of Foster's comprehensive plan. And at the same time, we're trying to hit the goals which are in the statewide long-range transportation plan for 2040, which both of which really align well with the goals of the SS4A program. You can see here on the right, I won't go through them all, but you know, things like supporting economic growth through transportation connectivity and choices, giving people the choice to walk or bike or take transit. You know, the third one, maintaining transportation infrastructure over time. And then the fourth one, you know, connecting people and places across all modes. Again, giving people that option. Next slide, please. So we have a sort of a recipe of proven safety countermeasures, which have been observed nationally to improve transportation safety. A lot of these will be familiar. You know, we were talking with the chief about speed safety cameras, improving delineation of horizontal curves, so to ensure that, you know, decrease the chance that drivers will go off the road. Sidewalk and bike lanes, we understand that that's of course improve safety, but it depends on, you know, where you are, and in more rural areas we have to be smart about where you know, they could make the most sense and do the most good. Crosswalks at intersections is something the chief also brought up, as well as lighting. So those are just sort of the high level countermeasures we're looking at. Of course, we're looking at others, but we just wanted to give people sort of a taste of what we're planning. Next slide, please. So we're looking at really 6 locations. We met prior to Christmas with the chief, and these locations were chosen after, you know, talking with the chief, but also again looking at that data. And of course, tonight we'd be we're all ears if people have other locations that you feel like we've missed. So, you know, a common issue, number one, Foster Center Road, you know, between the elementary school, between Isaac Payne Elementary School and the Youth Athletic Center, you know, we're proposing to build a crosswalk and either a sidewalk or a shared use path, you know, depending on the right of way. Sort of similarly, between the same school and the fire station, build a crosswalk there, as well as a shared use path going north of Route 6, connecting to the Foster fire station. The chief, number 3, you know, mentioned speeding on Route 6 is a huge problem. Many truckers are going down that road, going very fast. And so, you know, speed detection camera, speed feedback signs are something we're looking at there. Another location that we identified as a high crash location is number 4, Hartford Pike and Mount Hygeia Road 94. Again, speed detection cameras, speed feedback signs, and, you know, possibly intersection alignment improvements to really slow down that traffic, slow down those trucks, and also cars. Number 5, we're looking at the post office driveway. We heard from the chief and from others that, you know, and we walked this location too, I should add. There's really not a lot of sight distance there. People, when they're leaving the post office, really can't see well off their left, and that can make it dangerous. And that stretch also lacks sidewalks between here and the post office. And then finally, number 6, the final location we looked at was the intersection of Foster Center Road, Plainfield Pike. That intersection's sort of at a skew, and people tend to take it pretty quick, including sometimes truckers, we heard. And so, we're proposing to redesign that intersection to more of a T shape, to slow down drivers before the intersection and sort of simplify it and also improve what people can see. So yeah, those are just some high level thoughts we had. And if you go to the next slide. And this just looks at those first 2 locations, what we're proposing. And I understand it might be a little difficult to see up here, but we're, as I said, we're proposing to build that crosswalk and a sidewalk or a shared use path between the elementary school and the youth athletic center, so that children can easily move between the 2 of those. And then moving north between the school and the South Foster Fire Station, building a crosswalk and a sidewalk shared use path would be what we're looking at. I know we talked to the chief, specifically about emergency protocol at the school, and that fire station is an important location for that assembly, and so trying to get children safely there. And then shoulders for bicyclists at these locations, if the lanes were narrowed, would be something we are looking at. But really those first 2 are the critical ones for this location. And if you can see on the right, we have just a simple sort of cross section that you can look at to see what we're proposing at a high level. Next slide, please. So I just want to talk, this is the last slide. The next steps, where are we going to take our recommendations? Where are we going to take the thoughts you all have if we hear any? We are planning on providing to the town a draft safety action plan in March. I know that's coming up quickly. That would include, project prioritization. There'd be a list of projects that we would propose. We would hear feedback from the chief, from yourself, from anybody else. We'd love to hear, and we provide the final one in April. And then, as Dave mentioned, once you have that approved, hopefully, you'd be eligible to apply for those implementation funding. So we'd hopefully provide to you a list of, dangerous locations, and then you could, and potential projects that we're recommending, and then you could, in theory, take that and apply for those implementation grants. So next slide, please. Yeah, so we thank you so much for your time. Like I said, we'd love to hear your thoughts either now, or we put our email up there. If there's something we missed, I'm sure there is. We'd love to hear it from you who know your town best.
Any comments?
I have a lot of questions, and I know that I'm firefighter EMT, fellow firefighter EMT, dispatcher. So I think we've got a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge of this. So when I was first reading this, it seemed to me that it was to prevent crashes. And I looked at the crash data and been on a lot, done that in 28 years. Pedestrian accidents, and I think I've got some firefighters here that would back me up. In the last 28 years, I think we've had 2. And I would pinpoint the locations near Boswell on Route 6 and on 101 near Turnquist. And that's in 28 years. So that, as far as pedestrian stuff, that isn't really a big issue for us. As far as sidewalks, so if Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island, and I've got other questions about the grant, but I'll get to that after. If Rhode Island was to put in sidewalks, say between Captain Isaac Payne School and the ball fields, the state installs them. Who maintains them? Who's liable if somebody falls, gets injured? What is our liability there? Because I think I have the answer for you, but I was going to give you the chance to answer first.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You're probably not surprised. You're probably
You're
not
right.
surprised that we may have heard that kind of question
Mhm.
from our other communities.
Yes.
Um, our answer has been that RIDOT is a participant
Mhm.
in this program. They're not dispensing the funds because of the grant requirements. RIPTA was the one that applied for and received the funds. We are working with RIDOT. We have brought up and worked with them on the understanding that many of the towns, particularly the ones that we have that are rural in nature, the vast majority of the roads are under RIDOT jurisdiction, and that the communities often cannot afford the maintenance, the upkeep, the liability. And I think it's fair for me to say it's an ongoing discussion, but the fact is that they're participants in the program. They will have to endorse any projects or any grant applications for improvements on their roadways.
Mhm.
And sometimes glacially, but we feel that progress is being made in regard to how their plans, whether it's the STIP or, the statewide pet and bike plan or the vulnerable users plan, any number of plans, how these align with those. The other thing that I'll point out is that because this is not program funding, general funding, if a project is approved, moves up into the STIP, this is in their criteria, they talk about opportunities to move things up the list, prioritize things in the RIDOT world. And this program and the funds that would come from it are earmarked for the project in the community. So they would be specific to whatever project you might want to submit an application on behalf of. And, all of your concerns, the liability, the maintenance, that sort of thing
Mhm.
would be part of the development of the application and, their endorsement of the grant and the project.
Okay, so my understanding is that if we were to do this, if we were to put sidewalks, say from Payne School up to the ball fields, or from near the fire station or the town offices to the post office, my understanding is this, and I'll tell you why in a second. If we do this grant, the state does the sidewalks, they give them to us. And then we're responsible, the town is responsible for maintenance. And Chris Stone, our council member here, if he had a sidewalk in front of his property that led to the post office before Stoney goes to work, Chris, sorry, he would have to go out and he would be responsible for shoveling that sidewalk. And if something happened, it was icy, even if Chris shoveled it before he went to work and then it rained a little bit and somebody's walking up there, slips, cracks their head open. Now the town is liable and so is the property owner. Am I correct in that? And I'll tell you why I know that. My husband's a senator. And he has been putting a bill in for the past 3 years to change that. So that if the state puts a sidewalk in and it's on state property, it's gonna be on a state road, right? Our Route 94, Route 6, wherever, it's a state road, that the state should be responsible and should have the liability for it. So just the way I see how this is right now, if we did this, and I'm not saying I'm against sidewalks or anything, but I'm against my fellow council member here being sued because he's got a sidewalk in front of his property that now he needs to maintain. That's my understanding of how this works right now. So there's that.
Sure.
Do you want to respond or you want me to give you my next question?
I'll have a quick response that
Okay.
we're happy to go back with your concerns. And also, I think in the development of the plan.
Yep.
We say, pending
Mhm.
some agreement, or if it's not possible and the town does not want to entertain that for that reason, we can just either delete it from the list.
Or support a bill at
or-
the State House to make the state responsible.
I'll tell my sister. I
Okay.
live in Massachusetts, so I can't help there.
I know that it's serious. That's a real problem that I have because I wouldn't want any resident in town to be liable for a sidewalk. Because we're not the city. And I wouldn't want any resident in town that happened to have a stretch of sidewalk installed in front of their property to now become liable, to be responsible for the maintenance of that, or, okay, maintenance, the town, if it cracks and stuff like that, the town's responsible. But for ice, for shoveling, I don't think it's fair to put that on any resident in this town. So that's where I am with that. Another question.
I'm gonna have the chief respond.
Okay, okay, yes.
You have a question for me?
No, it's gonna be for him.
Well, go ahead, because then I'm gonna get on my little soapbox.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of this stuff, but the other question that I have is about funding. Is this a matching grant? Because we don't know, is it like a 75, 25, 75 from the state, 25 from the town? Because that's really important. We're going into our budget season. And that's something that we need to know. And I didn't see anything anywhere about whether or not this is a matching grant.
Sure, fair question.
Mm.
And the implementation funding does not require a local match.
Okay, so it's 100% from the
Yes.
state.
As the program and the requirements are written today or under the work that we're doing right now for RIPTA.
Is there a place to find that? Because I didn't see it in the presentation.
Sure.
And you're telling me as we see it, but I mean, before we would ever
Oh, absolutely.
agree to something, we
Mhm.
need to know that we can budget for it. So is there a place that we can
We
find
will,
that?
we will provide that.
You can.
Yes,
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
sure.
I've been working very closely with Evan and Dave, and there was a group of people, excuse me, and as the head of public safety in this town, we've identified multiple places that are very dangerous
Mhm.
for pedestrians, for children, for cars, for families. I think in any town, Heidi, and I'm saying this to you because this is your concern, and I understand.
Yeah.
That in any town, businesses and residents are in, I don't want to say in charge of their sidewalks, but they're
Liable.
liable on their sidewalks.
Yes.
We're not looking to sidewalk the entire Foster.
No.
I want, the town's going to get sued one way or another. We don't have any parking up at the recreational field. So 90% of the cars that go there for the big games are going to park in the Isaac school. And they're going to cross the street. There's no crosswalk. And then they're going to have to walk on that rocky, uneven surface from the school to the ball field. We're not looking to, I don't know what people have an image of their mind, but it's not, we're not sidewalking the world. We're not sidewalking in front of Cornerstone. It's an idea.
Mhm.
If nothing is implemented in stone. And these statistics are only from 2019
To
to 23.
2023.
I've had
Yes.
5 more
Oh,
fatals.
no, I know.
I-
I
And,
believe
and
it.
it said, it was very clear up there that it said it was 0 pedestrians and 0 bikes.
Yes.
So far. So
Yes.
far.
Mhm.
Now we've got we've got more people. But as the head of public safety, it's my job, if we can get a grant and have it paid for, whether we get sued by somebody cracking their head on a sidewalk or cracking their head because the ground isn't even, people want to sue, they're going to sue, no matter what. They're going to sue us if they want to or not. If-
Right. Well, my problem, Gina, forgive me for interrupting, isn't so much the town's liability. We've got insurance for that. It is the property owner, and it's by law in the state that if that sidewalk is in front of someone's property, like the example I gave from town offices to the post office, which goes right by Chris Stone's house, and he's responsible to maintain that sidewalk. This is my issue. I have got nothing against sidewalks, and I like a lot of the other things in this, like, the speed limit signs, the lighting, a flashing stuff like that. My 2 biggest concerns were liability to a homeowner,
Mhm.
which right now he could be sued if that happened in front of his house. No, but you understand what I'm
I
saying.
do
That
understand.
is
I
the
do, and
law.
I think you've made your point very clear.
Right.
If it's a problem for any homeowner to have a sidewalk in front of the house, they can nix it. How's that? They can just nix it. But as far as
It's-
public safety, I've seen tractor trailers blowing through that light at 94 and 6.
Yeah.
And that light is red. That light
Yes.
isn't yellow red. That
Yes.
light is, if I can get a camera there, if we can get a crosswalk there, that was covered. We had a crosswalk across Route 6 at one point. It was
mhm.
covered by when they repaved the road and they never
Yes.
redid it.
Right.
If I can get a crosswalk from the Payne School to a little sidewalk that goes from the Payne School, it's not gonna be directly, it's gonna be more diagonal. So we're gonna cut some road off, if you will. It's not gonna
Mhm.
go from the parking lot, boop, and then there. It's gonna go diagonal. So it'll be like a long crosswalk. And then so the families, people with canes, people with walkers, people with babies they're not on the road. And people fly down this road and
Oh, I
they come off of
understand.
Route 6 around that corner screwing.
Mhm.
So if we present this, once we get everything cemented
Mhm.
and we present it and it goes in front of Town Councilman Plouffe's house or in front of your house or in front of your house, and you say, I don't want to be responsible, then we nix it. But I think the real spots, and I've had 5 more fatals.
Oh, I know.
Since that
Oh,
statistic,
yes, I'm
and
aware.
many more serious injuries.
Yes.
Just in my 2 years, I've
I
had
know.
more serious injuries.
Mhm.
So I'm going to push for this.
Mhm.
And if somebody has a problem with what the plan is in front of their home, I think that's a great discussion to have
Mhm.
with these guys, and we're willing to make adjustments. But I think that the real crux were the 101, the lights. I tried to get a stoplight at 101 and 94. The DOT did a traffic study.
Mhm.
It got kicked to the curb because they said that the amount of vehicles going through there per day wasn't enough. But we did get bigger signs. We did get better lighting. If we can do anything we can do,
I agree with all that stuff, Gina. I just gave you like the two biggest concerns
I
that I
understand.
had, liability to a resident.
right? And if the
That-
resident
that-
has a problem with the
Mhm.
plan, they can
But
say, I have a problem with it, and then we won't do it.
right, and the lighting and signs and all of that, I agree with you there. The other question that I had was about the funding. Was it 100%
Yeah,
or
and
was
I
it a
knew, I
match?
already knew it was, and that's why
Okay.
I'm not gonna let this go, because
Yeah.
how often do we get 100% funding from anything?
Mhm. Well, those were my two concerns, and don't
I-
be offended.
I'm not
I'm
offended,
go-
but
I'm
I
just
wanna
trying
have
to
a
look out
discussion with
for-
all of you that
Yeah.
if a resident has a problem with anything that they may be in charge of, liable for,
Mhm.
other than that, too bad. It's public safety, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm here for. And these plans, I think, are great. And I don't know, those were just in my brain. I've lived in town 15, 16 years.
Yep.
You guys have been here a lot longer.
Yeah.
You know, you guys, Chris, you guys have been here so long that
Mhm.
you might have other spots that we can explore. These guys have been to much bigger towns with many more projects. We've only
Jeremoth
got a-
Hill.
We've only got a handful.
Jeremoth Hill. I don't know if there's well, you guys probably can't do it. It's gonna be RIDOT, but you know what's been happening there. We've
mm.
had several.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's the hill. I think the hill, there's no visibility there. When we had 6
Mhm.
cut down, that stuff.
Yeah, but
A
that's
lot.
that's a
Yes.
huge project.
It-
That's
it's-
cutting the
Right.
hill off.
Well, that's a different issue.
Yeah, but does anyone have any questions for me? Anybody? I want to thank Evan and Dave and their entire team for taking the
Mm.
time. They've come to see me several times. They've continued to communicate with the police station regularly by email, and they made the opportunity for all of you to hear what their plan is. And hopefully in the future, we can start some of these projects so people can be safer, you know, and then go and enjoy the games. And, you know, I don't have to be like, you know, people are crossing that street, like, you know, with some sort of safety.
Mhm.
We can't prevent everything, but we can prevent some.
Mhm. I think if you're gonna have a crosswalk there, you also need lighting. You need flashing lights or something to warn
Mm.
people about that, because at night, people they're not gonna see this crosswalk. I think you need warning. If you want to go that way.
Yeah.
I think you need to have warning lights, flashing lights, something.
We can discuss that on another night.
On
I have
another night.
brought that up. I have brought that up, and there's
Okay.
been some pushback on that. So we can bring that up another night, please. And if anyone has any questions for me, if you don't have them now, you can certainly, anyone here, any of you can call me at the station. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys.
Any other questions? Are we all set?
I
All right.
think we're good. I'm good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your, your thoughts, your opinions. We'll certainly take that, into consideration as we're developing the plan.
Great.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
Thanks
you.
for your time.
Website.
Yes,
sorry?
please.
Yes.
Yeah, for the grant.
Excellent. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, new business number 3, Freedom Energy.
Wish I could bring this up, like,
Sit that way.
it won't even connect to it.
Just hold the button until it turns red. There you go, you're on.
All right,
You're
good.
on.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Bart Frometh. I'm from Freedom Energy Logistics. I'm joined by my colleague Stuart Ormsby from our partner firm Colonial Power Group. We're here tonight to talk to the town council about community choice aggregation. I know my office sent over a slide deck, but I like to usually just kind of go into explanation of the program. You guys can ask any questions and then use the slide deck as more of like a summary, kind of after report, if you will. In Rhode Island, we've had electric choice, the ability to buy from someone besides the utility for your commodity rate, if you will, since about 1999. And when we passed deregulation in the state, and about 15 to 20% of homeowners in the state actually do buy from someone else besides Rhode Island Energy. They buy from a third-party supplier typically. But our firms work with about 110 communities that have implemented a new program around called Community Choice Aggregation, which seeks to really push the benefits of electric choice by grouping together towns like yours, communities throughout the state, buying as part of an aggregation or a buying group. And it helps them to collectively lower their power rates to compete with what they get offered from Rhode Island Energy. It offers savings, offers consumer service protections, and it also offers what I think is the most important these times is budget stability. Any of you that are on Rhode Island Energy for your homes, you'll see the rates kind of skyrocket to 16, 17 cents a kilowatt hour during the winter months, and it comes down to around 10 cents for the summer months. But that's a pretty seismic volatility in terms of someone that's on a fixed income, having to deal with a 70% increase over the winter months. And so we've had a lot of success with these programs. And as I mentioned, 110 communities throughout New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts that have been on this program and seen the benefits through the savings, through the budget stability. Rhode Island Energy, not really the bad guy, but because of the way that they're regulated here in the state of Rhode Island, they can only go out for 6-month purchases at a time. So they're very much at the whims of the volatility of the marketplace. A lot of our communities like to go and buy 1, 2, 3-year contracts so they can fix the cost for the residents. Now I'm coming to the town council because the enabling legislation here in Rhode Island gives you the authority to move forward with this type of a program. And it's an opt-out program. And that's a big thing to keep in mind because there's usual pushback that, we have to talk about because that's one of the negatives of the program in terms of feedback from your residents. They say, what gives you the right as town councilors to vote me into an electricity program? I can just do that on my own if I want to. The reason being is typically the cost per customer acquisition. And we've had opt-in aggregation in Rhode Island now for 20 years and it hasn't been utilized. And we've seen the benefits in Massachusetts and New Hampshire with these communities and the amount that they've saved. We get to take out the cost per customer acquisition. But when you think about it in terms of anytime you've moved to Foster, you didn't make a choice for Rhode Island Energy to be your provider. It was just the default provider that was given to you at the time. And I want you to kind of think about the Foster Community Choice Aggregation in the same way. You'll be replacing Rhode Island Energy as the default provider in town with the Foster Community Choice Aggregation. And similar for Rhode Island Energy, if someone wants to leave, they can leave at any time on the next meter read date. So the longest they'd be in the program is just 30 days. They can go back to Rhode Island Energy. They can choose a third-party supplier. If you've got a homeowner in town that already has a third-party supply contract in place, or a business in town that has a third-party contract in place, that will not be disrupted. This is only for the Foster residents and small businesses that are on the last resort service with Rhode Island Energy. So that's kind of an overview of the program. I'm sure you guys have some questions or some thoughts about it, and I'd be happy to answer anything for you.
Questions?
Sure.
How does it affect people with solar?
That's a great question. So in the state of Rhode Island, you can be in this program and it will not impact your credits coming back from the utility for any of your exports, and it won't impact anything that you're using at your own home and not exporting back to the grid. So you'll still have the same relationship under the Foster Community Choice Aggregation as you do currently with Rhode Island Energy.
Thank you.
Do you have any? No, no, you kind of answered the question, that is my biggest sticking point. And my problem is, I don't think 5 of us should sit here and vote on something that every resident in the town is opted into. That was, you answered it, and you
Yeah.
explained your logic
Sure.
behind it. And we have a lot of elderly in town that don't know particularly how to use computers, or they're not so
Sure.
tech savvy. So if they wanted to opt out, and I don't know how long it would take for people to see if there was a benefit, or if there wasn't, if the bill goes up, or I'm concerned that my feeling is if people really wanted in,
Yes.
they would take the time and they would figure out how to go online and opt in. And I'm just not sure if the elderly population and people would know how to opt out
Sure.
if it wasn't beneficial
Sure.
to them.
No.
So that was my concern. It just doesn't give me a good feeling being opted into something without a choice.
Absolutely. And again, this is not for every single community. There's
Right.
communities that have decided not to move forward with it.
Mm.
There are a lot of communities that have moved forward and seen the benefit, but these are certainly questions that you need to ask because
Right.
you might have a constituency here that says it's not for us and there's pushback
Mm.
there. And as much as it is a decision in terms of a collective buying group, it's a political decision too, from that standpoint, because you as town councilors are making that kind of affirmative.
I don't think I'm not even thinking that it's a political decision. I think it's a financial decision.
Sure.
That's, do you have any statistics on how much this has saved? I saw you had Massachusetts, like 99 towns, cities or towns that had opted in.
Yeah.
Are there any statistics anywhere that could show us what their benefit has been?
Sure. Yeah. And
'Cause
so.
we didn't have that part. And that, to me, that's a big deal.
And I'd be happy to forward some of those statistics. I would just give a kind of a word of caution there.
Yeah.
Like a past performance is not an indication of,
Now that scares me right
well,
there.
and I only say that because if you take a look at the last few years, like the city of Boston, for instance.
Yeah.
They're under a contract for 9 cents and change per kilowatt hour on a multi-year deal. We signed that contract prior to the outbreak of the Ukraine Russia conflict when energy prices skyrocketed.
Mhm.
The prices for the utility company in Boston went to 32 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yep.
So the savings in like a 3 or a 5 year look back will be quite dramatic. And so I say that, Joe, that you're not looking at this and saying, geez, we're going to save, 50, 60, 70% off of our electricity bills if we do that. I think in more calmer times, we're hoping for a 10 to 15% reduction in savings versus, again, more normalized years versus what you'd save with Rhode Island Energy. The other thing to point out is those savings are going to be extremely pronounced during the winter months when Rhode Island Energy tends to be much higher,
Mhm.
and they're going to be tighter during the summer months when they're more competitive with the rates that we would be able to offer. And so you have to look at it as kind of an aggregate, on the year savings. And if I looked just to last year versus where we would have been versus where Rhode Island Energy was, you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of an aggregate savings of about 25 to 30% last year. And, so they're compelling. And if you think about the average household uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, the savings for the entirety of the year could be about $400. If you, again, take a smooth average rate for those savings. The other thing to point out is there's no savings guarantee under our program. So
Right.
I can tell you how we perform right now versus the 16 cent and change rate that changes to 10 cents on March 1st. So I can give you an idea as to how we're going to save versus that. But I have no visibility in terms of where Rhode Island Energy is going to be in the August timeline when they come up with the next rates that are going to set forth in October. And so we have a great track record, but there are going to be times if we were to sign a 3 or a 4 year stable rate for the community here in Foster, there might be a time where for a 6-month period, we're slightly above the Rhode Island Energy rate. But if you look at the program over the life of the contracts, we've done very, very well for our constituencies. And in terms of like the elder populations, it's not all technologically based. So the statute here in Rhode Island compels us to send out a physical mailing to every resident in Foster to identify what's happening with the program, the difference between the Rhode Island Energy rate, our rate, and their rights under the program, and it gives them the opt-out card. And that doesn't solve everything because
Right.
someone could be visiting their grandkids in Florida when the opt-out card comes and they didn't fill it and send it back in time. But if they do fill it out and send it back at any point in time, or they call us, call Rhode Island Energy, people that are technologically savvy can go onto the website. There's a few different ways that they can opt out, and they would just be opted out on their next meter read date. And unfortunately, the way the utility grid works here in Rhode Island is action is only taken on someone's account every time Rhode Island Energy reads the meter. So that might be at your home on the 20th of the month or the 5th of the month.
Right.
And that's kind of the action date for these things to take place.
Hmm.
But there are a number of avenues for people to opt out. And I think the other thing that's compelling in terms of the clients that we've had is the retention rate. We've got a number of programs that have been operating for 8, 9 years where retention rate within those communities is about 88 to 92% in terms of people that stay in the program year after year consistently.
So I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
No, absolutely.
And believe me, I'm no fan of Rhode Island Energy. I'm not. But like having some kind of statistics would be helpful.
Absolutely.
I mean, I read through the presentation. I can't now because my computer's a jerk. But having the statistics, like you said, retention rate,
Yep.
and just some kind of statistics with savings
Yep.
for different communities, that would really be helpful.
Sure.
Because honestly, I was kind of, to be blunt, very turned off
And
by
that's
this
fine, yeah.
because, well, because of, there's always an angle somewhere. And when you're
Sure.
automatically opted into something and then you have to opt out, I get a little bit skeptical about that.
Absolutely. And, I've been to, at this point in time, probably 70, 80 town council meetings and these concerns are like across the board.
Okay, great.
So, definitely feel.
So
the discussions before.
can you get those? to
Absolutely.
us?
Absolutely. And
Okay,
I
I'd
just, like I said,
appreciate-
I just didn't want to provide you with the savings and then have you be like, oh, wow, like Boston's killed it the last
Right.
5 years and
Yeah.
then have that translate to how your performance would be. Because I think we did really, really well, but it's not realistic that those savings would continue into the
Right,
future.
It'd be helpful to have some kind of statistics. So
Absolutely. I'd be happy to follow up with. the
and
town
like
council with that.
you said, your retention rates, the people that actually stay with you as far as, instead of opting out.
Yeah, and then the other point I would mention too, in terms of how our agreement's structured, it's a self-funded program, meaning the town, there's no resources from the town that go on the program. It's paid, by anybody just on the rate, right? But if you were to hire us to come in and be your vendor, we do all of the paperwork, the regulatory, the submissions to the Rhode Island PUC. And then if the town council approves your aggregation plan, if you will, you still haven't committed to anything from the standpoint of moving forward with the program. It just makes you street legal should you ever decide to move forward. So like our contract basically says, if we do all of this work for you, and at some point in time over the next 5 years, you choose to go on flow with this program and move forward with it, you'd use us as your vendor, and that's how we get paid. But there's nothing out of pocket to us. You don't have to owe us anything if you go through the exercise and decide not to move forward. And some towns do that as well, where they work with us and they get to a point, they say, this might not be for us. And then they just kind of hit the pause button at that point in time. But at least that gives you more time to understand, your rights and abilities under the program and whether or not it makes sense for Foster while making progress towards it, if it's something that you like.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So what's the normal term of a rate lock that
So
you
it,
utilize?
it's entirely community dependent. We have
Okay.
some communities that love to go short term because they want to make sure that they're always saving money. And so we go in 6-month terms that follow the utility. Other communities are like, hey, like we don't like the back and forth and the yo-yoing. We really want that budget stability.
Yep.
So we go with a 3-year contract. And it's also dependent upon what the market's doing at the time. Right now with all the cold weather, electricity prices are screaming right now. Natural gas prices are way up. So if we were to look at prices tomorrow, Stuart and I wouldn't recommend that you do a long-term at a very high point in the market. We'd probably recommend a short-term or do nothing and then wait for the market to calm down and give us an opportunity versus Rhode Island Energy.
So it's dependent on the community. Okay,
Totally.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, okay. Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ryder? Yeah. She's gonna come up.
Sorry.
Lynn Ryder, Brookfield Road. And I know nothing about this, but I am assuming that Rhode Island Energy owns the lines.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And if you have an aggregate who opt out from Rhode Island Energy,
Yes.
should there be a massive power failure, do you get put down on the bottom of the list? Like, oh, that community, yeah, they're with us. And that one, no.
No, great question. And Rhode Island Energy makes all of the return on investment on the delivery of your power to your homes. So they're completely agnostic in terms of whether you buy commodity from them or buy commodity from third parties. So if there's a metering issue, if there's a power outage, You still call Rhode Island Energy, you're still gonna get the same service, good or bad from them to deal with that. But you're being on third-party supply or an aggregation will have no impact on that relationship.
Okay, my other question was, number one, in Foster, it would be really hard to get everybody on board with anything
Sure.
whatsoever. And, you know, and I guess from what I'm hearing is this only, you get the optimum benefit if everybody does. So if you had, you know, this guy no, this guy yes, this guy no, and you had people leaving, the benefit of being in the program for those who stay goes down?
So great question. And yes, it is the program strength is built on participants. But because it's an opt-out program, when we put Foster out to bid for third-party power suppliers to come in and bid for the town's electricity supply, they're gonna be gauging based upon just historic numbers with other communities, what they think the participation rate is gonna be. So let's say that they're saying historically, it's at least at 88%. So we're gonna model our risk premiums on 88% participation. But let's say in Foster, we only get 50%. The third-party supplier, by the contract that they sign on with us, cannot penalize Foster for the lack of participation that takes place in the program. So if there's only 50% and they have mark-to-market exposure as a result of overbuying for Foster, that's for them to eat. They accepted that risk and there would be no blowback on the Foster community rate as a result.
Great, and then just one more question, and again, I know nothing about this.
These are great questions.
But how, how reliable, I mean, now that they've deregulated, how reliable are these third party? I mean, I don't know what would happen if they weren't reliable.
Sure.
But I mean, you know, I grew up with Narragansett Electric, you know, and
National
that
Grid.
kind of National Grid, and, you know, that was it. And so when you start going out to these, and I don't want to say fly by night, but
Sure.
it could be. Or, you know, businesses, how does, you know, if one of them goes belly up?
Yep.
What
Great
happens?
question. So first off, in terms of like the financial viability of some of these companies, one of the things that we do well, in terms of our bid package, we outline if it's BP that's participating, or it's Nextera, which is Florida Power and Light, they own a ton of generation throughout the country. If it's NRG, we put the balances on the bid sheet, so you can see that these are multi-billion-dollar corporations that can handle certainly the load of a few thousand households within Foster. Now, if there's a situation where, God forbid, a BP goes out of business and can no longer serve Foster, all that happens at that point in time is there will be disruption in terms of our Foster electricity rates. We would automatically default back to Rhode Island Energy as a fail-safe. So the lights wouldn't go out of your home. You would be disruption because people are saying, well, geez, you signed us up for this 9-cent rate and now I'm back at 11 cents or 12 cents with Rhode Island Energy. So we'd have definitely some fallout in terms of explaining that, but the power on your home would continue to run and you'd automatically go back to Rhode Island Energy as a default service customer.
Sure. Miss-
So I just wanted to make a couple of comments and ask a question.
Sure.
So I don't think that most people do. I kind of disagree with you. I don't think a lot of people do understand that you can get your service and your service and delivery are two different things in your
Yes.
bill. And I think more people are like Lynn than like you who did understand that, but because I don't think the general population of taxpayers and residents understand, because I have explained that to them before at different times, and I don't think that they realize they can do this. So you could do a couple of things. You could actually put out something on the website which would explain all of this. And just to give people, let people know, even if you don't go forward with this, that's a good thing to educate people on as residents, that they do have the option to do this individually, even if they wanted to, even if you don't move forward. Because I don't think that that's true, that most people do know. The town does do this. We have a third-party vendor. And so do most schools and business, like larger communities do this. And we've never been in a position of losing money. So I understand what you were saying. And what he was saying, that it's not guaranteed. We've been in a few, there's been cycles where we've been on the wrong end of it, but overall each year we have benefited from it. So it's just something to let you know that we do this. And finally, because we've done this, we've worked with some customers, some businesses that their billing is atrocious.
Yeah.
So we won't use them again
Yes.
because they'll do a separate bill. So now you have two bills for every meter, and that was horrendous for us. So we have a lot of meters
Yeah.
and sometimes we'd have 25 bills.
Yeah.
And the timing of it, we were always being charged late fees and all of these different things when we weren't late because our mail system isn't that great here. We had to actually start mailing them somewhere else. So I wouldn't want that for our residents. So if you were to go forward, you would want a stipulation that they're only going to continue to get one bill because you can mandate that you get one bill. And you don't want to go with a company that's going to separately bill them for the delivery versus the use, like
Yeah.
the commodity. So that would be another point to make.
Yeah, great question. All of our communities are on a consolidated bill format, which means they get billed through the utility. So there would be no behavioral change for the residents of Foster. They'd still get their Rhode Island Energy bill. It would just say the Foster Community Choice aggregation rate on the Rhode Island Energy bill. It would also identify for them what the going Rhode Island Energy rate is for that period as well, so they can see for themselves how they're faring versus the utility company.
I did see that part in
Yeah.
the presentation, like that I can't bring up on my computer, but I did see, there were questions, where will my bill come from?
Yeah.
So, but it would be just one bill. Having two, yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, I can promise you that none of the suppliers we work with, no one would even want to attempt to do a dual bill scenario with residential customers. So definitely just on the Rhode Island Energy.
Now, does
invoice.
this apply to businesses as well, or just residential customers?
So it's a universal access program, which means it is open to anybody that's on standard offer or last resort with Rhode Island Energy. The variance is that we only offer the fixed rates for the small commercial customers and the residential customers. And the reason being is if we have a large business in Foster that uses the same amount of electricity as 500 homes and they decide to leave the fixed price program, that will cause a significant risk premium to be put on by the third party supplier and will negate some of our advantage versus Rhode Island Energy. So what we do is with the larger businesses, who about 90% purchase outside of Rhode Island Energy anyway. But for the larger businesses, we put them on a market-based rate only. So they get no real benefit from being in the aggregation program. It's really geared towards residential small commercial.
What do you define small business as versus?
It's all based upon the rate class that's assigned to them via Rhode Island Energy. So there's like a large commercial industrial rate. There's a medium commercial, small commercial, and a residential. So we would make it clear in your aggregation plan, if you will, the fixed price only applies to these rate classes. These other rate classes would get into our market-based rate. And it would be no drive or incentive for them to want to join that. So, and if they did join, there would be no impact on the fixed price customers with higher risk premiums.
Okay.
So. All right. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Good.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. All right,
Is this something that we are going to mull
uh,
over, put on
yeah,
another agenda to
yes.
vote on?
yeah, no action on this one.
Okay. You were gonna get us some information?
Yeah, with the statistics.
Yeah.
Yes.
And retention and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
And-
you can
and
send it to me and I'll
Put it on
disperse it.
another agenda depending on when.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Great, next on the agenda, recreation event dates for 2025. Want to get these locked in?
So, we.
Oh, you have them? Oh, good.
Yeah,
I
oh,
was
do
gonna
you
read
want to read them
No,
or?
no, I was going to, but if you want to read them, I didn't know you had a printout.
Oh, I did
You're good.
print it out, but go ahead. if you
No,
want
go
to.
ahead, no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, from, recreation. Oh, I thought I was on. Sorry, I'm not red. Okay, so there are, recreation events from April to December, a schedule that, the director has given us. And we just kind of wanted to approve all of these. Michaela has said that all these dates are available. And instead of having the director have to come here every single month and request approvals, we thought we would get it all done at once. So I will read the events. So for April, we have Easter at the fairgrounds on April 12th, a Saturday. The rain date is April 19th. The Memorial Day Parade is scheduled for May 26th. And Tammy notes that we're hoping to increase the size of the parade. For June and August, the food truck events at the fairgrounds are Wednesday, June 25th and August 20th, with rain dates of July 9th and August 27th. And at this point, I would add that those are subject to licensing and permitting, which would be handled by the town clerk. September, the yard sale at the fairgrounds is scheduled for the third Saturday in September, which is September 20th, with a rain date of September 21st. In October, trunk or treat at the fairgrounds is scheduled for Saturday, October 26th, with a rain date of October 27th. In November, on Monday, November 10th, then this one I wasn't clear on because this is for Veterans Day. Veterans Day is Tuesday, November 11th. And there was a question mark on that one. And not on the actual Veterans Day.
Yeah,
On the day.
it's on the day.
Yeah. Yes,
on
it's
there.
November 11th. Okay, so November 11th, Veterans Day at the Phillips Field. And in December, Bright Night at the fairgrounds, December 5th on a Friday night. So with that, I would make a motion that we approve all of these dates because they've been cleared by the town clerk's office, and the only one that we had that was subject to licensing and permitting is the food trucks.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Recreation appointment?
We received a letter from Denise DeFranco requesting appointment to the Recreation Committee. The Recreation Director has said that she has attended meetings. And with that, I would make a motion to appoint Denise DeFranco to the Recreation Committee for a term ending in December 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. Foster Old Home Days, Community Fairground dates for 2025.
Chris, you have those in front of you because I don't.
I got them here somewhere. I didn't dig them out yet.
Oh, no, here.
The Foster Old Home Days Committee has requested that Old Home Days be held, as it always is, the last weekend in July, on the dates of July 25th, 26th, and 27th at the Townhouse grounds. The Foster Old Home Days Committee is also requesting the use of the fairgrounds to set up for Old Home Days from July 21st through July 25th, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Police Department memorandum of understanding for CAD RMS replacing IMC. MOU, I went through most of this and under the understanding that IMC is going away eventually. So I know we are gonna have to do an upgrade. I think a lot of this needs to be done via the budget and see where we're gonna pull in. The initial build is probably gonna be capital, I'm thinking. And then the recurring charges for the RMS, the IMC replacement. One of the things that does have to be, we would probably need a new memorandum of understanding just to be updated, because it's from September of last year, unless everything is still accurate. Because the introduction still shows September of last year. MOU with memorandum of understanding. Oh, okay. RMS. I actually don't know the acronym. and It's a software.
RMS is Records Management System.
Yeah,
And
aided dispatch.
right. I just want to, I that second in command Chief Barrett came today because he assisted in implementing this new CAD system. It's been in the works for many years and it's finally going live in the state police on March 18th. IMC, yes, it's going away. And as if you keep it, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to become more and more expensive, right? If, right. If it, well, right. It's going to become obsolete, just so, but I wanted John Barrett to come tonight because he's so well versed in computers where I'm not. I know what it is. I know that we need to do it.
Mhm.
And I want to get on board. But if you have any questions computer wise, this is your guy. And he knows the money end of it, right? And the timeline pretty much. So I just wanted to let you know that he was gracious enough to come and hang out with us to explain this to you.
Can I ask when the old system's going away?
So I'll give you some history because I don't have a solid answer on when it's going away, but IMC was developed in the 90s.
Mhm.
Every police department in the state, with the exception of Providence, uses it. And IMC has been bought and sold several times, and the company that owns it now has stopped future development on it. It's mainly been untouched since the 90s, and so it's very old and antiquated, and it's going away. So the state put together a plan to purchase a statewide solution and then allow towns to opt in through this MOU. They're subsidizing a good portion of it, and they're going to maintain the software side. They're going to manage the program, and we're just going to be users of it. So any hardware cost, state's going to handle. All Foster PD would need is the computers they already have and an internet connection. So servers and things like that, the town's currently hosting can go away. So there's some savings there as well. I don't know the numbers in the MOU, but from what I was told from the project manager, the cost is about $1,000 more than what the town pays today for IMC per year. So my guess is you're going to save that just in the hosting fees that you won't need anymore. And so the other big change is currently the town only has Foster police dispatch, and they do their fire dispatch on a piece of paper and they fax that to us. And this new software brings all that in. So this is a big benefit for the fire and EMS because we're going to gain dispatch, computerized dispatching really for the first time. And it's going to integrate with our software. So our times and everything will just backfill into our PCR reports and our RMS system. And so it's going to be huge for the, for the fire departments as well as the PD is going to get a ton of new functionality because they're moving to a piece of software that's 30 years newer. So like I said, IMC is going to go away. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say within the next 3 to 7 years. But they haven't announced a date that they're going to shut it down. So I can't say when it's going to go away. But they have said that they're doing no future development on it.
So state police is going live in July.
March 18th is their go live.
Oh, March 18th.
Yeah, state police, and there were 3 or 4 other towns that are going live, and then they're doing waves that they're rolling this out in. Foster's been asked to be part of the second wave. So there will be other towns that are going live in the first wave around the March 18th timeline, and then second wave, we were like, it would be October of this year.
October, okay.
And then I think in the third wave, Gloucester and Situate are going on, so our, our neighbors will be on, which again, it's all one system, so if we get a call that belongs to Situate, we click a button, the call goes over to Situate, where right now they're making phone calls and figuring all that out, that's all gonna be done electronically now, so as more towns come online, the benefits continue to get better for us, in the past, we've had to have state police come and cover, because we've down personnel,
Mhm.
they're gonna be on the same system, so that'll be, working with them will be much easier. They can easily just come and our dispatch can send calls right to their cars versus having to go through state police's dispatch, right? So there's a lot of benefits, and like I said, I believe, I can't say for certainty, but I believe there'll be a total savings once you take the hosting as well. If what I was told was correct, that it's about $1,000 more than we pay now for the software part, minus the hosting, I believe you'll have a savings overall.
So they're gonna maintain the hosting, they're gonna maintain the updates.
Yeah,
on
so
the
it's a software as a service, so you're paying per user of the system. And it's a annual cost per user, and we're a small department, and so the cost is fairly low compared to other departments, but the hosting is an AWS, it's an Amazon. So there's no hardware involved. We just have to provide an internet connection and and an internet browser, which we already have today.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, it asks for a second internet connection for a backup.
So
And
if the internet goes down, the software goes down.
Right.
So it would probably be a good idea to have like an air card.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
have-
literally a laptop and an air card, and they could dispatch from anywhere. So if the PD went down for some reason, they could set up at the fire station with a two-way radio and a laptop and an air card and be up and running.
Yeah.
But yes, if Verizon internet, which I believe is where you guys are getting your internet from,
Yeah.
was down, the software is going to not work until
Yeah.
that internet connection comes up. So you would probably want to have an LTE backup.
Yeah.
For at least one laptop. The cars already have it,
Mm.
so you could technically rip a laptop out of a car and use one of those.
Yeah, I think the LTE probably be backing up the computer system internet, so where you wouldn't have to utilize a laptop.
Yeah.
You can set that way.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it would
they
be-
have their 911 phones on an LTE backup. So it's on Verizon or voice or IP, and then they have an LTE backup. That's covered
Correct.
by the state. So that's probably something
Yeah.
we'll probably do here also.
So yeah, so if you were to have a separate LTE connection backup, then that would be another monthly, Verizon bill that you would have.
Yeah.
But like I said, worst case, you could grab an air card out of a cruiser that's not in use and.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because that's key,
emergency-
because it's obviously it's hosted. Internet goes down, it's down.
Right.
There's no
And- And
backup.
the state has a team that's gonna be managing the program, right? So they're gonna be managing the updates, they're gonna be managing, all of that. We're just users, so they're
Yeah.
gonna give us logins and we're gonna go.
And if I'm correct, that's not currently the case. With
Yeah,
IMC.
currently,
Currently, we.
The Foster PD owns IMC and they pay a yearly maintenance fee.
Right.
And then they have an IT department that they are in contract with to support that program. And so I believe that they have that server hosted with their IT company.
Yeah.
There's actually several servers that they have hosted with their IT company to run IMC, and that could all go away. They may still need some servers. I don't know if they're using like Active Directory and other things that aren't related to CAD and RMS, but the CAD and RMS servers could go away.
Do we have any other questions on this?
No, we'll look at the financials and stuff. right?
Yeah, I think, my suggestion is we should bring it forward to budgetary workshops and then make sure we add that in. Rather than taking action on it tonight. That's my
Right,
suggestion.
and if nothing's changed in this agreement, since it's dated back,
Yeah, that's the only thing I gotta, I'll give it to.
I'd really like to review it. We just got it
So-
yesterday.
Yeah.
So
We can
it's,
reach
Yeah,
out to the
kinda-
project manager and make sure
Yeah, that's
that
probably
that
what we're
is,
gonna need to, yeah.
that's valid.
yeah,
I haven't seen the MOU, but I mean,
yeah,
we met with the chief and I and the captain met with the project manager on Monday. And I'm sure he would have told us if it was a new one, but. I mean,
yeah, I just wanted to,
we'll
yeah, I just wanna
reach
make
out
sure
and
because it's September.
The
that
one thing
they-
he did say though, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you can remember him, would they want to do this sooner rather than later because
Yeah, so, I mean, if we miss their, you know, if we miss their window for the wave two, we're gonna get pushed to the back.
Right,
And
right.
I don't know where that'll be. So, you know, there's training that has to happen, that,
Mhm.
you know, the dispatchers have to be trained, the police have to be trained how to use the software. So they want to, you know, and they're looking to go live in October. So there's a lot of things I think that need to happen to stand up our system, get everybody trained and stuff. So, I mean, obviously, the budget hearings are happening
Yeah,
now, so I
now,
don't
so
think
that's why-
that's a problem, but.
Is there a deadline? Have they given you
I
a
can find
deadline
out.
for
I
this?
I don't remember, like I said, they're not overly concerned if we, you know, if they're just gonna put us in the back of the line, you know,
Right.
but I would love to get on in October if we could.
So
Yeah.
you can get that
so we're
person's
close to
name.
getting the new station too.
Right.
Station once we're up and running. Also there.
Yep.
But will one of us or both of us will reach out and double check that those are
Yeah,
numbers for you.
Yeah.
I think they are, because I think he said once you get rid of the hoster, it's between 800 and 1,000 more a year.
Mhm.
But it kind of washes out because you're getting your.
Right, right.
I mean, we can talk to your IT vendor, but I can't imagine you're not, you know, gonna have some savings once you say, all right, we don't need the hosted server.
Right.
We don't need the hosted switch anymore, and we don't need your support services to help maintain the system anymore.
Mhm.
They're still gonna need some IT services, but this
Yeah,
is a
but
big
not
bulk
that,
of what
yeah.
they do.
So like 2 weeks, putting this
I mean,
So
I'll
that-
email
to-
them tonight and we'll have an answer tomorrow.
to see, like the memorandum is from September to get an updated one. 2
Yeah.
weeks is not gonna hurt us
Yeah, I don't
and put
think
us
so.
at the back.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna put it on the agenda for next
Yeah.
meeting also.
Steve, I don't think we have to wait till the budget meetings, because the thing with the budget meetings is the workshops, you couldn't.
Oh, we can't-
adopt
we
it
can't.
at That point
Right.
anyway,
Right.
but if we had more time to vet it and Joanna had more time to read it just for.
Well, that's why I
anything
gotta
that we missed,
make sure
it-
Joanne's got it, yeah.
right? And then I did I just want to check, you checked the internet, that was one of
yep.
the concerns, and we'll just look again, I have a call into IT to see what the savings would be. But ultimately, it's relatively within the cost that we're
Yeah.
paying,
Mm.
so I think that if we just buy yourself 2 more weeks, so that. we can
So
go-
2 weeks
That's-
is, 2 weeks
yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
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 But be able to adopt it then anyway.
Well, we couldn't
No, but-
sign, we
Because it's a
couldn't,
workshop, and you can't make decisions
It-
during the work.
we can't sign this because it's dated in September.
that's-
Anyway, we need a new one.
We'll
Yeah.
give you all the time that you can take.
Good.
Okay, all right, all right. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
The IMC we have now went online in August of 1996. And I've used it since, and it hasn't changed much. I went to a training 2 days ago for the new one, and it's just phenomenal. My excitement is that you can find time in the fire department, so there's a lot of savings with, tax paper,
Yep.
toner.
Mm.
And those little things, we won't be doing that anymore, so
Yep.
the fire department does a huge deal right there. So it's a really nice, very user-friendly, great system.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or any discussion on the MOU?
Let's look that.
Municipal Fellow Grant. So this is, well, we'll just, what we want to do is move forward with, we have a new person that we're interviewing. And we just want to make sure that we're using the grant that we're receiving for it, and we want to give the HR person the ability to make those decisions. So that's, and is, you know, if there's any other discussion you want to bring up, what we're gonna,
It's just that the way that the state has discussed it with me is that you want to be able to negotiate some sort of a package for them, sooner rather than later. Because we're already about 2 months now behind where we would have been. They wanted this person up and running by January 1st. So obviously, that's not gonna happen. We interviewed one person, we're interviewing another person next week, next Wednesday.
Yes.
And Joanna sits in and I believe she's in on that via Zoom. And this is the referee person, these two people. So we're going to make a decision and then you negotiate. The town negotiates their salary and benefits. We're going to remain within the grant amount is I think $7,000 per month. So whatever we fund regarding or
Yeah, it can be a combination.
healthcare, it can be a combination of all of that, and they will reimburse us for all of it. But you want to be, I need the ability to be able to work that out with that person so that they can start sooner rather than later.
So we don't need any kind of motion for this, or do we?
I would, yeah.
To allow Kelly?
Yeah, just to allow Kelly to.
To discuss, I mean, I think that if we're gonna offer the position, the council can have, will obviously have the final say, but.
Right.
If you're discussing with somebody in an interview, if we would even meet their salary or benefit requirements. So I think that the approval would be to allow Kelly to be able to have a meaningful conversation and discuss a salary / benefits package up to the maximum that the grant would allow.
Yeah.
So moved.
There you go.
So moved. We have a second?
I'll second, and then that will come to the council once you have an agreement, yeah, then for our approval. Okay.
That the candidate.
Yeah.
Decision should be council's.
I think the hope is that we can do that at the next meeting.
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Any other discussion? No? Good. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? All right, good. Planning board budget recommendation. So this was what was recommended.
So to be clear on that, this is what you have right now is the letter. They always give you the letter.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't vote on it. It will come up during the discussion.
I was just gonna say, it's gonna come up
Just
during the
it's
budget.
not- They provided it to you and what's involved. And then what I will do is as soon as I have time, I'm gonna give Michaela the packets that goes with that, the support for what was requested by each department head, why,
Mhm.
and then we can have more comprehensive conversation during our workshops.
Okay.
okay, so no
We have
action,
it- We have it to view for ourselves.
no action on that?
No,
Okay,
no action on that. And that's okay, executive session.
all right, I will make a motion to go into executive closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 for the discussion of work sessions regarding collective bargaining, contract negotiations, or litigation according to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, and to reconvene an open session and further to keep the minutes of said meeting closed and the minutes of all executive sessions held previous to this meeting be closed and remain to provisions of the general laws of Rhode Island 42-46-4 and 5.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we're in executive. So we are out of executive session. There was one vote taken. That was the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, Local 637 Memorandum of Understanding. It was 4-0 on that vote for the positive. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All right, we are adjourned.